Even if you are a solid contributor, even if you do have great experience, even if you do have a lot of talent, don't think you are guaranteed a place at the table. Welcome to the Spinoso Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Spinoso, and my experience and expertise is in scaling all types of medical businesses to 7, 8, and 9 figures. And I'm sharing my journey with you. It's not a podcast telling you you should do this. This is a podcast simply telling you what I did. And I want to help you build your business, take ownership of your life, and become a better leader at home and at work. And guys, I'd really love to connect with you, especially if you are in the medical field or a medical entrepreneur. I have free courses available to help you scale out your medical business on dralexspinoso.com/courses. I also invite you to connect with me on Instagram at Dr. Alex Spinoso. So let's get into it today. I think most educated Americans would recognize the name General Douglas MacArthur. MacArthur was one of the main army leaders of the Allies during World War II. He was very involved in leading the fight in the Pacific Theater, which was basically us fighting the Japanese. The guy was a military genius. He had movie star good looks. There was just one fatal flaw he possessed. The man had an unreal ego. Now, you may say, hey, anybody that reaches general status during a war has got to have an ego. But everyone in the know says if the egos of the other generals and leaders were the size of tanks, General MacArthur's ego was the size of an aircraft carrier. You know, generally, an ego like that serves a good purpose in war. It makes a man confident. It makes a man decisive. But after the war, when he was serving his country in various positions in the army, General MacArthur forgot that he didn't win the fucking war by himself. He also forgot that he was a war hero. He also forgot that while he was a war hero, while he was a brilliant leader, while he was loved by soldiers and citizens alike, the truth is, he was not the boss. He was not the highest authority, period. And so he copped an attitude. He thought his accomplishments gave him the right to swing his dick around. He brazenly disregarded direct orders from Harry Truman, the President of the United States at the time. Guess what happened to this stalwart leader? Guess what happened to this general who helped save the world for democracy? Guess what happened to this legend? President Truman said, "You're fucking fired." Boom. Just like that. Now, MacArthur was right that he was critical to the success of the army. What he got wrong was that he was essential to the success of the army. What he got right was that he was very important and carried a lot of authority. What he got wrong was that he was the most important person and carried the highest authority. You know what's crazy? There are people in an organization who aren't even the equivalent of a 5-star general. There are people who aren't even the equivalent of colonels or majors or even fucking lieutenants. And yet, they somehow start to think that they have a much higher rank than they really do. They somehow start to think that they are much more important than they really are. Let me tell you, if that's you, you better watch out. If you aren't the CEO, then you better watch developing delusions of grandeur. Because the truth is, you are probably not near as critical as you think you are. You probably are not near as indispensable as you think you are. But even if you are a solid contributor, even if you do have great experience, even if you do have a lot of talent, don't think you are guaranteed a place at the table. You know, several years back, there was this controversy with Colin Kaepernick, the NFL quarterback. Now, Regardless about how you feel about his political stance, here's the reality. Colin Kaepernick caused a hell of a lot of controversy. And the thing is, he wasn't an elite level player. If he had been an elite level player, maybe the NFL owners would have taken a chance on him. But he wasn't. He was mediocre at worst and solid at best. And so let me ask you this. If you are an NFL owner, would you want your franchise to be the hotbed of political controversy for the sake of a mediocre player? Hell no. Supporters of Kaepernick said he got blackballed for his political stance. I think he got in trouble simply for being a pain in the ass. The point I'm trying to make is not a political one whatsoever. It's a practical one. When you get delusions of grandeur, when you get, as they say, too big for your britches, when you think you are so important or so mission critical that you think you can swing your dick around and act like you have as much say as the owner and CEO of a company, and when you vastly overestimate your importance in the organization and you generally make a total pain in the ass out of yourself, guess what? You're going to go the way of General Douglas MacArthur. You're going to get fucking fired. You know what a better approach is? Ditch the delusions of grandeur and embrace some humility. Consider yourself the dumbest person in the room, but work so hard that your actions show that you are critical to the company. Let your actions establish your authority. Let your actions establish your right to have a say. The strongest argument you can make about your value to a company and your right to be a major player in the organization is the results that you produce. And if you take that attitude, I guarantee things will go well for you. If you ever watched the old show in the 90s called The West Wing, it was about the President of the United States and his staff. All of the episodes were basically situated in the White House and Washington, D.C. Well, a couple times there were scenes where a reporter would ask a staff member their personal opinion. They might ask the chief of staff or the press secretary, hey, what do you think about the president's position on XYZ? And they always answered, I serve at the pleasure of the president. Well, if you want to provide real value in a company, your attitude should be, I serve at the pleasure of the CEO. That doesn't mean you're a mindless slave. It doesn't mean that you never share your perspective. What it does mean is that you don't get delusions of grandeur. What it does mean is that you don't get an inflated ego so big it clouds your vision of reality. I am very, very blessed to work with a staff and minority owners at Genesis who are hard working, good people, humble people who provide real value. And the absolute overwhelming majority of these people are exactly the kind of people you want in your business. But over the last 4 to 6 years, there have been a few times where a minority owner got too big for their britches. They got delusions of grandeur. In spite of the total lack of evidence, they somehow came to believe that they were the driving force of our success. And because of that, they became cocky, disrespectful, and divisive. To return to the analogy I opened with, they weren't war heroes. They weren't responsible for leading us to victory. They sure as hell weren't legends. But you know what? They suffered the same fate as General Douglas MacArthur. They got fucking fired. You know, MacArthur is famous for a line from his last public speech. He said, old soldiers never die, they just fade away. Well, let me tell you this. People who let delusions of grandeur derail them, they do fade away. And they also die, never, ever having accomplished what they could have accomplished or enjoyed the wealth and lifestyle they could have enjoyed had they just kept their ego in check. These people think they are the shit. but they just end up fucking themselves. Don't be one of them.